Okay, we're going to get started here. I'd like to welcome you to the Kent City Council committee as a whole. We got a couple of things on the agenda tonight here. First, I'm going to ask for a roll call, please. And you're not Kim. Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, let's get started here. Item number 3, agenda approval. Any changes? No see any from Pat. Councilmember, any changes? Nope. Going to ask for approval for the agenda as is.
So moved.
Moved to second. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. We have department presentation coming up, quite a few we're going to go through tonight. So the first one we're going to go through is the operation, and going to ask for approval of the minutes from August 15th.
So moved.
Second.
Moving to second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. We're going to move on to item number B, payment of the bills. And ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. Now, item number C. We got Ellaine going to come up here and going to talk about Repeal of Resolution 1950.
I was 5 years old.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Well, good afternoon, Council President Boyce and council members. Ellaine Wee, Risk Manager with your Human Resources Department. I'm here today regarding the motion to repeal Resolution 1950, which established the American with Disabilities Act, also known as ADA, grievance procedures for the City of Kent. The previous procedures named former risk manager Chris Hills as the ADA coordinator specifically, and so this motion repeals Resolution 1950 and readopts an updated policy which designates the position of risk manager to serve in the role of ADA program coordinator. The other provisions of the grievance procedures remain the same.
Okay. Sounds like a real simple change there.
Very, very simple.
Any questions, team? Okay. Could I ask for a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I move for repeal of resolution number 1950.
Okay. Motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Yes. Oops.
Also have to adopt a new resolution, 2065.
2065, where's that at? Oh, thank you. You got to read it for me. Sorry. All right. We'll do a do-over. That okay?
I do over. Mr. President, I would move to repeal resolution 1950 and adopt resolution number 2065, updating the city's grievance procedure under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Second.
Hey, that's
A
me.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. And I have it right here, so that's my fault. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to Tower. Unless I'm going to give you this here.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Council President
Oh,
Boyce,
long
and
one.
council members. I'm Tara Duckworth, and I'm the Deputy Director of Information Technology, and I'm bringing a motion memo for you tonight to authorize the mayor to sign the renewal order and with CentralSquare Technologies, and that's for our Tiburon Police Records application, in the amount of $150,689.99, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the IT director and city attorney, and to authorize the IT director to sign future renewals that are consistent with established budgets, and to ratify past actions consistent with this motion. We've been renewing this for 18 years now, since 2005. You'll see an amendment that's also with the 2005 contract that shows the change of ownership of the Tiburon company through a number of different companies, and they're now owned by CentralSquare Technologies.
Okay. Any question? Seeing none? Okay.
Okay.
Ask for a motion, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would move to authorize the mayor to sign the renewal order with CentralSquare Technologies LLC in the amount of $150,689.99, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the IT director and city attorney, and authorize the IT director to sign future renewals that are within established budgets and to ratify past actions consistent with this motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. Thank you, Tara. We're going to move on to information only. The one and only, Michelle Ferguson. You even got a standing yay from last year, so that's a good sign.
All right, I'm Michelle Ferguson. I'll be presenting the July 2023 financial reports. All right, first slide up. If you take a look at the all revenues for the general fund, we are currently about $1 million over where we were at the same time last year. And so this is mainly going to be due to the increase in sales tax revenue, utility tax revenue, and miscellaneous revenues. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on the next few slides. So here highlighted is the utility tax revenues. You can see that they are coming in quite a bit higher than they were at the same time last year. But that is not just because the revenues are coming in higher. That is due to that shift that we did with the Capital Resources Fund, where 52.5% of the property tax revenues were moved to the Capital Resources Fund, but then all of the sales tax and utility taxes that were in the Capital Resources Fund moved back to the general fund. So when you look at the revenues for those utility taxes, the internal utility taxes for water, sewer, and drainage, those are estimated to come in about $800,000 higher than budgeted. Electric, gas, and garbage utility taxes are estimated to come in $1.1 million over budget, which is about an 8% increase over last year. But these increases are offset by a small decrease to cable and telephone utility taxes. Combined, they're going to come in about $70,000 under budget, and that is a 3.7% decrease from last year. So you can see the sales.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
So sales tax revenues are estimated to come in about $3 million over budget. Utility taxes are estimated to come in $1.7 million over budget, and miscellaneous revenues are estimated to come in $1.5 million over budget, and that's mostly going to be for interest income. So overall, anticipated an additional $7.5 million in revenues than what was budgeted. And then expenditures are estimated to come in about $2 million over budget, under budget. So when you look at 2022 actuals compared to 2023 estimated actuals, you'll notice those numbers look a little bit off. So about $9.5 million in revenues, and then about $12 million in expenditures. And so that's because of the shifting of the revenues from the capital resources and the general fund. And then also that came with that shift was shifting of the expenditures for the expense allocations to parks and public works. That was, the expense was shifted to the capital resources fund. But also for revenues and expenditures were those one-time ARPA funds that floated through the general fund, so that reduced the amount of revenues that are going to be anticipated for 2023 and the expenditures as well. Highlighted on this slide is human services, just because we just don't talk about it that often, but this is the fund where we get that. The majority of the revenues are for the 1/10 of the 1% sales tax. So estimated that those, because sales tax keeps coming in strong, estimated that that's going to be about $330,000 over budget for the revenues. And expenditures are going to come in slightly under budget, and these are those revenues that are restricted. 60% has to go into a project, and then the rest is spent for Parks Human Services and the Police Co-Responder Program. And then this slide, the solid waste utilities solid waste utility fund. The revenues are expected to come in about $230,000 over budget, and that's for that extra fee that we're getting from one of the services that we get. But expenditures are estimated to come in slightly over budget, so we'll probably have a budget change at the end of the year to use some of those revenues to pay for the overages and expenditures.
Okay.
And on the last slide, highlighted are most of the insurances. So the revenues are expected to come in slightly over budget, but for the majority, the expenditures are going to come in over budget for unemployment, workers' comp, property insurance, and we'll see how liability goes. The revenues will cover some of those expenditures, but we will have to do a transfer in regardless to cover the amount of fund balance that we need to stay above the minimum required fund balances. So we'll keep looking at those numbers, but expect to see that in the budget change in the fourth quarter.
If I add all those up, about $1 million, right? If I combine all these?
Yes, but the transfer in will be more than that.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Any questions, team? Yes.
So on the other page where you show we're doing a little bit better,
Yes,
it's
so
going to help us out when we get to this
a
situation.
lot of those revenues the extra revenues will then be shifted to the insurances, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All righty. Okay, at this time here, part of our new process is to turn the meeting over to the chair of the department. So the first one going to be ECDC, and I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. We have 2 items on the agenda this evening. Both of them do require action by council. The first one is Targeted Residential Investment Program, Astro Park Towns Home Agreement. So Lindsay's going to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, council members. I'm Lindsay Walker. I'm a current planner in ECD, and I'm going to talk about our Targeted Residential Investment Program and specifically about a project that has applied. So this program is also known as the Multifamily Tax Exemption, is outlined in KCC 3.25 and the RCW 84.14. The program provides limited exemptions to ad valorem taxes for the site improvements for multifamily housing developments within urban centers. This program was adopted to encourage residential opportunity within urban centers, to stimulate new construction on vacant and underutilized sites, assist in directing future population growth, and to achieve development densities which are more conducive to transit use. This process is administratively reviewed by staff, but it does require approval from council to authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Okay.
So as a refresher, the program was originally passed by Washington state legislation in 1995. Kent City Council adopted the multifamily tax exemption in 2001, consistent with this legislation, then later replaced that multifamily tax exemption with the Targeted Residential Investment Program in 2020, while also updating our program criteria. Attracting residential growth to the downtown area is a core tenet in the city's comprehensive plan and the economic development plan. So this program helps drive our goals. So essentially, projects qualify for this exemption if they're within the target area and meet the criteria that council approved in 2020. Our last proposals were 6 years ago, so I wanted to provide a little refresher on previous projects. We have Madison Plaza and Marquis on Meeker, which was later renamed Ethos. The development plans and limited tax exemption criteria were reviewed and approved by staff, and once we determined that they met the intent of the program, it was presented to council and authorized in December of 2017. And I did provide some pictures of those projects. We can see that they are fully constructed at this time. So the proposal we're talking about today is the Astro Park Townhomes. They're proposing to demolish the vacant building located at the corner of West Meeker and 2nd Avenue North. which I have outlined in yellow there. This demolition will not impact Maggie's on Meeker or Town Plaza, which are located on the same property. 7 units are proposed on the site with the entrance facing west to Meeker Street. As a reminder, we do have additional development standards that were adopted by council for projects located within the downtown area. Staff has reviewed this proposal and found it consistent with those downtown design guidelines, as well as our development code. Astro Park Townhomes meets the criteria outlined in KCC 3.25 and meet the goal of revitalizing the downtown area and redeveloping vacant land. The 7 market rate units they are proposing are 3 stories tall and range from 2 to 3 bedrooms. As you can see from the rendering, it does tie into Kent's space history with the mural and meets the design requirements outlined in our downtown design guidelines. Staff has reviewed this project and found it consistent with our development standards and with the criteria outlined in our targeted residential investment program. The civil and building permits are ready for issuance, so staff recommends council to authorize the mayor to sign the contract. And I'm available if anyone has any questions about the proposal or the program.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Council members, questions for Lindsay. Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lindsay, I just want to say you did a great job. I think this is probably your first time
Yes.
that I've seen you up here, so good job. You answered most of my questions in the presentation. I think this is a really great thing for downtown Kent, and I'm especially happy that it won't impact Maggie's. It looks great, so yeah, good idea.
Thank you. I'm going to go down the line. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. Thank you, Lindsay. And yeah, like Councilmember Michaud said, you did great. So thank you for all this information. My quick question is about, do we have a number of, like, the amount we're exempting, just for reference purposes? But I think it's great for our downtown. That building's been vacant for so long. And, you know, having housing in downtown in this area is going to be very helpful for businesses and our community. So I'm excited about that. I was just kind of wondering if you have the number in mind of.
Sure, we don't have the exact number in mind. It's not on the whole property. It's pretty much an exemption based on the improvements or the building of the property. We can likely come back at a later time and get a better number.
And was that for 8 years or?
It's 8 years.
Yeah,
tax
okay.
exemption. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good thing for downtown. The building been empty for quite some time. Are they going to be renting these townhouses, or are they going to be ownership, or do we know yet?
Right now, it appears that they'll be rentals.
Rental. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Councilmember. So the first 2 examples that you showed us is different than this site proposal because they have parking.
Yes, they're much larger.
And there is no parking on that. And I know we discussed this years ago, and I know it was turned down because there was no parking. Am I correct to say that the whole blue area surrounded in blue outline was the proposal?
The proposal was just within the yellow outline.
Just within the yellow.
Whole site.
So it's the old Rexall drugstore. Okay. And actually the Pontiac dealership, if you go back a long ways. I have some concerns. I am going to put forth the motion and hear a discussion before I vote. I have some concerns. You've heard the one already, the parking. Besides, to go do away with Maggie's, the best food in town. But anyway, it wouldn't be torn down. It would still be there.
Before I call for the motion, Councilmember Fincher, did you have any questions?
My concern was, well, I'm going to support it because, number one, it's going to be housing that's cheaper than having housing on a full-size lot. But do we have anything on the outlook, on the horizon for actually that's going to be for sale so people can actually buy instead of simply rent? Anything that might be coming downtown, same type thing though, townhomes or smaller size lot units, because I'm still looking at people being able to try to buy into home ownership.
Certainly. I'm not currently aware of anything coming on downtown. Nate, do you have any information?
Hey, Kurt.
So I just wanted to step, because I actually inherited the review of the building permits and the civil permits when I came to work here as the senior planner. So I did some of that review. So Lindsay's just kind of inherited it again at the review of this MFTE proposal. So, so it could be condoized at a future date by the owner if they chose to go through that process. Everything about the application, about the proposal right now indicates that it'll be used as rental properties, market rate rental. And so to speak a little also to the question of parking, that was something that was considered during the design review back in 2021. And so because it was in the LID district and the property owner had paid into the LID in the past, and there were 7 existing units with no dedicated parking or on-site parking at that time, it was looked at, considered more as a rebuild of those 7 units. And so it was less of a parking impact because they had paid into the LID district, and it was a kind of continuation of the non-conforming standards with the no parking with the 7 units. Does that answer the questions?
Yes, but I have another concern, if I may.
Hang on. Did that answer your question, Councilmember Fincher?
Yes, and I was wondering also if the half mile being within a half a mile of transit plays into the parking issue at all.
It's a little hard for me to speak directly to. It was just done by my predecessor as the senior planner before I came here. So I don't know if that was part of the discussion. I did have some conversations when I was doing the civil and building permit reviews with Erin George, who was the planning manager before me. And she really indicated it was more geared towards the LID factors and then the existing conditions. So that was just kind of incidentally what she had told me was part of the equation there.
All right, Councilmember Thomas, I'll come back to you, but Councilmember Michaud, did you have any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. Okay, so I'm reading in here, I'm just reading this really quick. It says something about 50% of the space is intended for permanent residential occupancy. In the agreement. Yeah.
Yes, so being rentals, they are considered permanent residential occupancy.
Okay. Interesting.
All right, Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Councilmember. So the gentleman that owns the second, or the back half, that would be from 2nd Avenue, basically, in Harrison. He has put a lot of money into that building, and now you're asking him to tear it down? I know he's...
Building that's being demolished to make way, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
Let me see.
Kurt, I might need you up here. Okay.
Let me take a crack at this.
Yeah.
Sure.
We're all there. We've been here a long time. Those of us that kind of can close our eyes and see this property. So Mr. Velling is the current owner. Everything in blue, highlighted in blue. And of course, now his proposed project is going to be highlighted in yellow. So Mr. Velling has come in with a project where he's proposing residential. He would retain commercial occupancy on the ground floor, and gets to the point that you just brought up, Councilmember Michaud, about the 50% being residential. So about half the project that's the criteria to make it. So you do not get an exemption from the non-residential components of the project valuation. So the only exemption is for the residential component. That's why that criteria reads like that. It's kind of wonky, but that's the intent. So this proposal is 7 units. There's 7 units that exist out there today. There are 7 units upstairs. So tomorrow, under this proposed redevelopment, there will be 7 units. So under LID, I think it's 260, under LID 260, property owners that invested in LID 260 have a vested property right to rebuild, not adding additional units, and then not add any parking to the inventory. That's a vested right in their property ownership because they invested in LID 260. And so if you were to be proposing 8 or 9 or 90,
right.
He would have a corresponding requirement to add additional parking above and beyond the 7 units. So, and again, it's a private development and a private investment, but I guarantee that math was done, where they looked at the cost of doing a raise and redevelopment, where they're adding 20 units or something. Right now, it's cost effective for the ownership group to look at this proposal and do a modest improvement, adding 7 units, like for like, at a market rate proposal. We have a program in Kent for multifamily tax exemption. We have 8 and we have 12-year program. Again, it's a private decision that they would make to qualify for either or. Doesn't stop anybody from adding a mix of incomes. They would only qualify, in this case, for 8 years, because that's the program that is before you this evening.
And just to be clear, there's 7 units today. There's no parking for 7 units today.
That's correct.
And there's no parking for 7 units tomorrow.
That's correct.
There's nothing going to change.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's still going to be 2-story this time?
Well,
It'll be 3 stories.
Yeah, that image.
But it's a townhouse style.
Oh, I see, yeah, right.
3 levels for all
Gotcha.
7 units.
Okay. So, Kurt, aside from this one, what about the vacant corner lot on 2nd and Meeker, which is across the street from this building as you're, oops, you got it gone now, but
Right.
you know where I'm talking about?
I do.
The space, yeah, right beside that. So it'd be right across the street from the blue line there, this vacant lot. And I know the ownerships, there's 2 owners,
That's correct.
and they don't get along or something.
You said that, I didn't.
I know.
So that's a discussion that we should have, at some point in the future.
But was it a site? It's a comparable site.
It is. It is.
And was it considered or proposed to these 2 owners
For additional inventory or investment?
for whatever you want? 7 units, 8, whatever you want.
Sure. I haven't spoken with Mr. Velling on this
Yeah,
property. I think
okay.
he's searched the area, though.
All right. Well, I'll give up on that and go for this. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair or
right.
Madam Chair.
If there are no other questions, I'll ask for a motion, please.
Okay. I will propose this motion. I move to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Southworth Properties LLC, providing an 8-year multifamily tax exemption for the Astro Park Townhome development under the city's targeted residential investment program, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, and Kurt,
Yeah,
you're
I'm
going to say...
sticking around awkwardly here.
Council,
Sorry.
we have an opportunity to appoint someone to the Kent Special Events Public Facilities District Board.
Thank you. Appreciate the chance. So this is a bit of a refresher. Did this recently with another position. Public Facility District. So it's a 5-position board of directors that oversee all that is Show Center. Really, it's a financing and it's a kind of an advisement board where the city can use as a resource to ping ideas and basically just do a check-in on all things financial, really, for Show Center. So there are 5 positions. Zenobia Harris moved in. Council appointed Ms. Harris during, the height of the pandemic, really. It was in May, I think, of 2020. She agreed to fill a spot, vacancy that Lou Sellers, when he moved away, Ms. Harris agreed to sign on, and we thank her for that. Subsequently, 2 years later, she became the president of the board. So she's doing great, very well respected among the team there, and is doing great things. As council knows, with reappointment that council had done in 2020, it wasn't a full term. She's interested in basically filling a full term, and the term ended, I think, last Thursday. So August 31st, this would start fresh on last Friday. So we're a little bit time machine stuff here, but that's the request. Ms. Harris is interested, and she's doing a bang-up job, and that's what's before you this afternoon.
Excellent, thank you, Kurt. Any questions? All right, with that, I move to appoint Zenobia Harris to the Kent Special Events Public Facilities District Board for an initial first term of 4 years from September 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2024.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. And with that, I am going to turn it back to you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. So we're going to move on to our next item, which is parts, and that is the chair of that is Councilmember Michaud. So Councilmember Michaud, please.
Thank you, Council President. Up first, we have Marina Hansen with the Senior AC Unit. She's going to give us an update and talk about another purchase.
Thank you. Yeah, if this sounds familiar, we came to you back in June to get the contract authorized for the grant from the Vet Senior and Human Services Levy for the purchase of air conditioning units for low-income seniors in Kent. And so we did go through that process, and we were able to secure 186 units from Home Depot, which was really all we were comfortable purchasing initially, not knowing what the response would be. And quite frankly, these are pretty big units, which we didn't know ahead, so we had limited storage space. So once we had the units in hand, we did a pretty comprehensive outreach effort that included postcards to residents, advertising on social media. We advertised through the city's programs that target 55 plus, Meals on Wheels, things like that, just hoping to reach as many people as we could. And we also had those materials available in 6 languages in addition to English. So I think we were able to get a really good, diverse effort in our communication. And we did receive, it was 1,000 applications really quite quickly. So the application period was not open very long. Once the application period closed, our staff did a really comprehensive review of the applications to kind of assign a vulnerability score. So we asked some questions through that application process that included some extra points if you were over the age of 80, if you had a medical condition that you were, willing to self-disclose that might make you more vulnerable to heat, if you were 65 and older, if there were multiple seniors living in one house, if you were homebound, and also, and also if you just couldn't get out. So if there were heat events and you couldn't get to other safe spaces. So we have been able to distribute those first batch of units pretty quickly. We did an event where we were able to pass them out at ShowWare. We've had people pick them up in our office. Our home repair staff has delivered them. But we wanted to go ahead and purchase the additional units, and we were starting the process of going through this with council, and then we had that other heat wave hit, and Home Depot's inventory plummeted from 3,400 units available to 340, and we needed almost 200 of those, so we were able to get authority to go ahead and purchase those while they still had them in stock. So we're now moving to get those units out into the community. So that's why we're here a little behind in terms of normally we would come to you in advance before having made this purchase, but because of the heat continuing this summer and the low inventory, we went ahead and purchased. So now we're asking council to ratify that purchase.
All right.
If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Marina?
Wonderful program.
It's been popular.
Okay. All right. I am going to read the motion. I move to ratify the purchase of 372 portable AC units in the amount of $198,601.46.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next, we have Carrie O'Connor here to talk about an RCO situation.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you. I am here to present about the Lake Meridian Playground resurfacing. So RCO Local Park Maintenance Grant is available. It's one-time funding for 2023. It's focused on deferred maintenance needs. The maximum grant amount is $100,000. There's no match requirement. It is due in a couple of weeks on the 18th. It must be spent by the end of June of 2025. And this project we are applying for is a Tier 1, which means there is no ground disturbance. Currently, the existing conditions at Lake Meridian, it was built in 2011. It's heavily used, as I'm sure you're all well aware. And the playground surfacing, both the rubber and the turf, are failing, but the play structure and the equipment overall are in good and fair condition. So the grant that we are applying for the maximum $100,000. The remaining funding will come from Parks Capital and Operations and Maintenance. It will be a full surfacing replacement of both the rubber and the turf. The spinner and the sand play will also be addressed as we do this project, and the project will require a full playground closure throughout the summer. But this will extend the life of the playground quite a bit. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Carrie? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You say a full closure, that means as fence all the way around when you say that? Or
Correct.
big fence, little fence?
One, preferably that one cannot climb and get into the construction zone.
Really?
Excuse me. One clarification. The project is really resurfacing of the rubber surface and the turf.
Right.
Most of that work can really happen in about 2 or 3 weeks. I think conservatively, we would look for a full closure of about a month. And we would try and do that earlier, kind of like late spring, early summer. You really have to have dry weather. Very, very important you have dry weather. Otherwise, the bonding of that surfacing won't be quite right, and then you'd be losing that product in a few years anyway. So it's really important we get dry, warm weather to do this installation, rip the Band-Aid off, do a full month closure, get it done, and get it back open for the rest of the summer. That's the goal.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought the full close was going to be forever. Just until you do the work. Okay.
Just the
yeah, okay. I was trying to figure that piece out. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, so this would just be for them to submit a grant proposal.
Correct.
Okay. All right, we are ready for a motion. I move to adopt resolution number 2064, authorizing the signing and submittal of grant application number 23-1552M to the Recreation Conservation Office to assist with the Lake Meridian Playground surfacing replacement.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you so much,
Thank
Carrie.
you.
All right, up next, we have Terry Youngman to talk about some easements at Sun Meadows Park. Thank you, Terry.
Madam Chair, council members, good to see you this afternoon. So I come back with some action that we need at Sun Meadows. We actually have 2 easement agreements that we're going to be talking about, one with the Lake Meridian Water District and one with Puget Sound Energy, but I've got them lumped into one presentation just to make best use of everyone's time here today. So where are we in the city? Just southeast of Springwood Park, there, the red star, that is Sun Meadows along 132nd, kind of on the southeast end of the city. Some history on Sun Meadows Park. It's a neighborhood park on the East Hill. It was annexed from King County in 1996, conveyed to the city in 1999. There's an existing well house on the southeast corner, so that's gonna be down here. That's the existing well house. What you see here is the construction impact from the digging of the new well. This is the item that you all passed about a year ago at this point to give them easement rights to dig that new well. So current amenities in Sun Meadows Park, there's an open lawn, a perimeter fence, and a half-court basketball. There is a project in our 6-year plan that's currently scheduled for 2025, kind of waiting for this project to complete before we go in and do some improvements to the site. So Lake Meridian Water District and well number 6. Lake Meridian Water District incorporated in 1962, formerly called King County Water District number 111. In 1985, they began operation of the well through King County. So the current well that's on site on that southeast corner was originally set up with an agreement with King County. In 2006, there was a treatment and water quality expansion project. This well and the service provided here through Lake Meridian provides water service to over 20,000 residents in Kent, so it's a really important piece of infrastructure for our residents on the East Hill. The easement for existing facilities and the new well was approved by council on May 4th, 2021. So gosh, that was almost 2 years ago at this point. We are requiring a new easement for a backwash tank and for electrical service to the new well house. That's the items we're here to talk about tonight. So the prior easements, you might recall this diagram on the right-hand side. But basically, the outline in red is the temporary construction impacts. That's what's happening out on site today. So that's their footprint for temporary construction. And then the lines in blue were the prior easements that we granted to them, both reconciling the existing utilities and infrastructure that were there as part of the King County agreement and getting them the infrastructure they needed to dig the new well. So the Water District is constructing some new facilities. They're in the process of constructing a new wellhead and a well house. The well has been dug and is viable, so they're moving forward with the well house, an asphalt driveway, and underground utilities associated with that. The City of Kent has already granted a temporary construction easement, that's red, a permanent easement, shown in blue. We already received $45,000 of financial compensation paid by the Water District to the City of Kent for both the permanent and the temporary easements. The easement agreement incorporates the park site plan to protect future investments. So what that means is we had a consultant develop a plan for the park, show where those improvements were going to be so that it was coinciding with what the Water District needs for their underground utilities. So we're not going to put things on top of their utilities and have it dug up later. We're going to kind of work around their infrastructure. They're going to work around our needs for the park design as well. And then park planning, design, and construction following completion of the new well. So we're going to come with a project at a later date. So the items that we're going for tonight are 2 new easements. So the easement shown in orange, so that's going to be this easement here. It follows an existing easement that we'd already granted to Lake Meridian Water District, but it's a new easement to PSE. So this is going to be electrical service to the well house so that they can operate their mechanical systems there. It's a narrow corridor that falls within that existing easement. And we are going to be granting some additional space connected to their previously existing well house. So that's going to be this rectangle here in light blue. It's connected to that well house. It's going to be a backwash tank that's going to service the previous well house. So a little bit complicated, but the permanent easement for Lake Meridian Water District, that which is shown in blue, is 843 square feet, so a pretty modest amount of space, and in a portion of the park that really doesn't disturb our park plans. Compensation for that is $2.67 per square foot for a total of $2,250.81. And then the permanent easement for PSE, shown in orange, 1,601 square feet at $2.67 per square foot. Total compensation for that would be $4,274.67. So total paid by the Lake Meridian Water District with these 2 items would be $6,255.81. The $267 comes from an appraisal that we had done. So that's where the valuation comes from, is a previous appraisal. So it's just following the same logic that we used last time for compensation. So the new easement agreement takes all the old easements, incorporates all the new easements for the Lake Meridian Water District into one comprehensive document. And then just kind of a reminder on what we're showing for the park. We will have a public engagement process, talk with the surrounding community about what they want. We wanted to get through the Springwood Park project first, kind of get that park up and running. That way we didn't have 2 parks offline at the same time in this area. But some of the things we're envisioning for the space, you can see where their well house is shown here. So this is kind of the footprint of their well house, but we would be using their driveway for access into the park that then connects to a loop trail that goes around the park. Adding some tennis and pickleball potentially to the site. A sand volleyball court, that's something that we actually see a lot in our system, is people coming out with their nets and just plopping them down on the lawn. So we're looking at building something that's built for that purpose, and sand volleyball could be a good program here. So these are just some of the ideas that we've thrown out. We'll have a public process to talk with the community about what they think is important for the site and move forward with that in 2025 for the planning and design, and construction in 2026. I think that's all I have. Yeah. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Terry. My first question is, can we get any additional funds from them because their temporary easement is taking so long, their temporary construction?
I would say we've gotten good compensation from what they've paid so far today. The $45,000 was actually above and beyond what the appraised value said. We just negotiated that as part of their impacts to the park and investment that needed to be made. I think these items is what urges them to get things done, hopefully the course of this next year. So my recommendation is let's get them moving and done, because they have to go through process to make these payments every time. They had to approve a motion to be able to pay what they're paying for these items, and so I don't want to keep going back to the drawing board with them. I think we have a good deal here. Move it forward, get them done, get them out so that we can come in and do our park improvements.
Okay. And anyone who uses this park, just know that what is blocked off from the park right now is a much larger area than, once this is done, will be blocked off. That makes sense.
Yeah, so the red area is what's blocked off today. What will actually be blocked off is really just the gray hatched area right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, any other questions or comments for Terry? Okay. I will do the first motion, and that is for the backwash tank, so that's selling them this property. All right. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the easement agreement with Lake Meridian Water District in the amount of $2,250.81 to the city, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Okay. I will read the motion for the second part, which is for the Puget Sound Energy easement. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the easement agreement with Puget Sound Energy in the amount of $4,274.67 to the city, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. All right, motion passes. Thank you so much, Terry. All right, back to you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Michaud. We're going to move on to item L, and it's public safety, and Councilmember Core, Chair.
Thank you, Council President. So we have one item on public safety agenda, and that is Washington Traffic Safety Commission Interagency Agreement for Region 8 Traffic Zero Manager. And we don't have Sarah Wood. We have Commander O'Reilly. Sarah looks different today.
Good evening, Council President and Council members. I am standing in for Sarah Wood tonight. She's on some well-deserved time off. Here to talk about the Target Zero program. As you all know, Kent Police Department has served as host agency for a Target Zero manager for the past 2 decades now, and Sarah's done it for quite some time. Funded over these years, the Washington State Traffic Safety Commission, traffic safety work in King County has grown in priority as they strive to reach the Target Zero for zero injury or fatality collisions across the state. King County represents over 50% of the serious injury and fatal crashes in the state, and the Traffic Safety Commission continues to invest funding to sustain and grow the traffic safety work across King County. Working with the Public Health, Seattle and King County, and the 2 Target Zero manager positions housed there, Kent PD's Target Zero manager, Sarah, coordinates the Law Enforcement Committee, an Educator Outreach Committee, high visibility enforcement funding for 26 county and area police departments, media outreach and education, and manages 3 different grants to support the work. Each year of the funding is going to cover from the traffic safety. Actually, this agreement is a 3-year agreement with the total funding amounting in $255,000, spread equally over each year, so $85,000 a year. The funding will become available October 1st, 2023, and will run through September 30th, 2026. Each year of funding will provide half-time, full-time employment, 0.5 FTE to coordinate traffic safety projects and programs for King County. A total of $72,000 will fund the 0.5 FTE position, with $13,000 identified for overtime as needed. And just some other things on what's in it for Kent, kind of a thing. As you know, Sarah's our community education unit coordinators, or one of the 2. And all of the information and the great information that she gets, we routinely share that with our citizens in the forum through social media opportunities. We put out a weekly crime education unit newsletter. We share things regarding our campaigns for distracted driving in support of our county distracted driving grant program, Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over, the HVE, and school zone speed enforcement. We talk about one of the latest ones. We talked about the going back to school and slowing down and reminding people of the safety for children and things like that. So her position is a real good connection for both programs, and it's a real good relationship. And I think it's been a really good program for Kent and our police department.
Thank you, Commander O'Reilly. Any questions? All right, should we go for a motion? All right. I move to move to accept grant funds in the amount of $255,000 from Washington Traffic Safety Commission for the partial funding of a Region 8 Target Zero manager, amend the budget, authorize expenditure of the funds, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary agreements and other documents subject to terms and conditions acceptable to the chief of police and city attorney.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Commander. Back to you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Core. Move on to the last committee report out for today, and that's Public Works. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Council President. First thing we're going to hear about is consultant services agreement with Fur and Piers, Inc. for local road safety plan update. That's a mouthful.
Good afternoon, council members. Subject matter chair Fincher, David Payne, city transportation planner. This is a request to authorize a consultant services agreement to assist with the update of the city's local road safety plan, the 2024 version. So as you may recall, in June, we presented on accepting the Safe Streets and Roads for All Action Plan grant from Puget Sound Regional Planning to enhance the local road safety plan update. That month, staff also released a request for qualifications to select a consultant to assist with the update. A panel representing multiple departments interviewed and ranked the responding teams and recommends Fair and Piers to assist with the scope of work detailed. So what is the scope of work? In August, staff also presented on the safe systems approach. That is the methodology used in the Kent local road safety plan. This team would help staff to enable the city to walk through the needed elements of a safe streets and roads for all action plan, the requirements of that you see in front of you, including a public engagement effort, level of effort similar to that deployed in the 2021 Transportation Master Plan, the multi-year effort, including translation. This team was selected for for demonstrating their engagement efforts, working knowledge of Kent, as well as work with similarly situated communities, as well as their subject matter expertise. The not to exceed amount for the consultant services agreement is covered by the Safe Streets and Roads for All Action Grant and is detailed in your backup as $306,910 exactly. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have on the scope process or scope of work before us.
Any questions? In that case, we are ready for a motion. So I move to authorize the mayor to sign a consultant services agreement with Fur and Piers, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $306,910, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We are now going to talk about joint funding agreement with the U.S. Geological Survey.
Good evening, Council President, Subject Matter Chair Fincher, council members. This agreement is an annual agreement that the city has done with the U.S. Geological Survey for 30 years. So this is proposing to go on to a 31st year, and I will talk a little bit about just what the agreement does for the city and the benefits and how much we're proposing to participate in that. So there are a number of gauges that are around the area that we participate with them, partner with them. First one is out Rock Creek inside the Clark Springs watershed. And the importance of this gauge is that it measures the flows next to our water supply, which is tied to our habitat conservation plan requirements with the federal government. So during October through December of the year, we have minimum stream flow requirements in the creek. And so this gauge gives us instantaneous data on what the flows in the creek are year round. But it's the important part is during the October through December, during the flood season. There are 3 gauges down in the Green River Valley that help us with measurements of Mill Creek and Springbrook Creek as the flows come down through the valley, so we can have some instantaneous data on when there might be flooding or what the creek levels are. And it also gives us information to tell us how our models are doing, so when we're planning out and designing our stormwater system for the future, how big it needs to be, where we need help, and those types of things. And then the other 3 gauges that the city participates in with the USGS are on the Green River, and those 2 of those are still newer gauges at 277th Street and Meeker Street Bridge, and then the 200th Street Bridge, which has been there for a while now. And those we use for our emergency response as well as for our levee design. So we know how high the levees need to be. And we've been learning quite a bit from those levees, or from those gauges. One of them's on the upstream side of the agricultural area on the south side of the river. One of them's right on the downstream side. So we can tell exactly when the river starts coming up. Usually during a storm event, we need to watch the upstream side first because that's where it's emptying off into the agricultural area. And then as the storm tapers off, then the water starts emptying out of that ag area. And then we have the impacts downstream when the river starts coming up. And so you get a kind of a balancing act between the river coming up and going down in different parts of the city. What you see here is just the last winter's gauge readings over the 3 gauges at 277th, which is at the upper end, elevation 40 to 50, and then going down to Meeker Street, which is about 15 to 20 feet lower, and then going down to 200th Street. One thing I try to talk about, over the last winter, anything kind of notable. This last winter was about the mildest winter I can remember storm-wise. So even the first storm that we had between October and November, which was the biggest storm of the entire winter, didn't come anywhere close to, it was less than half of the capacity of the river, even the biggest storm that we had, which is incredibly unusual. There's not really much to say about that. I would not expect that to happen again for a while. So the amount of the agreement, the City of Kent's portion is $124,420. That is an increase of about 2.8% over the previous year, so it's much less than inflation for an increase over the year. And we did work with the USGS to try and keep that increase down. The USGS portion is $33,000 out of that, and their portion went up over 4%. And then Tukwila participates half and half with us on the 200th Street gauge, so they participate in this agreement also for a total amount of $169,170, which pays for all of the USGS's labor and equipment, and as well as their internet connections to this, so the public can see these gauges real time, and so can city staff. And I am happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions from anyone? All right. Then the motion, I move to authorize the mayor to sign.
You have a question? Councilmember Lummer?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign a joint funding agreement with Water Resource Investigations between the City of Kent and U.S. Geological Survey in the amount of $124,420, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Batutis. And we are now on to an information-only item on the Department of Ecology for the Ramp Litter Cleanup Grant. Yay.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all this afternoon. My name is Tony Donati. I'm the Conservation Coordinator here in the Public Works Department. Today, I'm here to inform you about a competitive grant in which we've applied for to address the litter issue that we all see on state-owned highway ramps here in Kent. The Department of Ecology offers a 2-year competitive grant which assists local jurisdictions with up to $60,000 with no match for litter cleanup activities on state-owned ramps in their jurisdictions. So the city applied for this grant at the end of August, and if funded, we would be able to begin cleanup efforts starting this October and run through June of 2025. Of the 21 ramps within the city limits, staff has identified the top 6 off-ramps that we would address. And those off-ramps are the ones off I-5 at Kent Des Moines Road, and then along 167 at Willis Street and Central and 84th. The grant would allow an on-call cleanup contractor to remove debris and dispose of it at these 6 locations 6 times throughout the grant cycle. And also it pays for staff to administer the grant as well. Currently, the city the department, we have 1 on-call cleanup contractor under contract, and we're in the process of procuring 2 more to possibly help with these actions. We're expected to hear back from Ecology this month, and again, we can begin cleanup starting in October. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, so do you put these out for bid, for people who can bid on the contracts, or what?
Our on-call cleanup contractor, we did put that one out to bid that we currently have. They're the ones, Totem Logistics, that are working on the encampments right now. So that one did go out to bid for encampment cleanup, and we are, again, in the process of working with 2 contractors for additional cleanup work that may go towards this work.
What's the requirement? I mean, do you put them out of bid? Can people who have, quote, business have the ability to bid on these type projects?
Well, again, the ones that we put out to bid, we're looking for the encampment specifically, and then we could create a new contract with them that are currently under contract to do litter cleanup as well. The ones that we are looking to do, like the director has identified 2 contractors, one local, one out of Tacoma, that we would like to work with and help along to do projects such as these.
So just ask one more time. So your average ABC company, local in Kent, that do this type of work, or do they have the ability to bid on something like this here?
Yeah.
They do. So is the bid open right now for this particular one? I'm just kind of figure where you're in the process.
Yeah, so currently we don't have a bid out there for this work. We can put current contractors that we have under contract to work on this, but we don't have an RFP out for this work specifically.
Are you going to put one out there? I'm just asking the process. I don't understand, so that's
Yeah,
what I'm asking.
yeah. Thank you for the questions. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Chad.
Clarify on kind of a term of art, we put out a request for proposals for contractors that could do cleanup work, as opposed to like a public bid. So we had contractors that came and said, hey, I do this type of work. I can help you guys out with cleanup for encampments. Okay. Or in the right of way, or any manner of cleanup that you need help with. And so we set that up for a contract with one contractor, the contractor that won the proposal. But as what Tony alluded to was that we went back and asked some of the folks that had applied with us through the proposal process to give us their information. We signed on contracts with 2 additional firms so that as cleanup sites come up, we can ask them to go out and give us bids on those individual sites, and we could get the best price and have the contractor go out and clean those sites up.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a combination.
Catch you. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Right, right. I mean, pretty much all the off-ramps are not looking as good